Bluetooth, pairing, Bluetooth, connected.
All right, we made it back with the Most High permission. Happy Feast of Dedication, Day 1. I'll open up class. So this is the part 2 to how do I begin serving God? Where do I start? Part 2. Last time we left off, we talked about the idolatry. What does it mean for meats sacrificed to idols? We broke that down, and then we see that that's going into idolatry. And we looked at the different kinds of idolatry and what is the effect of idolatry. So let's go back to Acts 15. Let's pick up right where we left off. Acts 15, read 28.
Acts chapter 15 and verse 28.
And read 20.
Acts chapter 15 and verse 20. But that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood.
And from blood. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at fornication. It said, stay away from idols. Was the number 1. Number 2 was fornication. Fornication. So let's open up with fornication in 1 Corinthians chapter 6. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. 13.
1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 13. Meat for the belly, and the belly for meat. But God shall joy both it and them. Now the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord.
So let's say the body is not for fornication. It's not. Go ahead. It's for the Lord.
And the Lord for the body.
And the Lord is for our body. The Lord is for our body. It say the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord. And the Lord is for our body. Jump to verse 18.
Verse 18. Flee fornication.
What it say?
Flee fornication.
It's the same thing when it said flee from idolatry. Paul said the same thing about idolatry. He said flee idolatry. Here he's saying flee fornication. Go ahead.
Flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body, but he that committeth fornication sins against his own body.
So fornication is a sin against our own body. This is important to know. Fornication is a sin against our own body. Verse 19. And what is our body for?
Verse 19. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own?
So he say, we on our own, our body is for the Spirit of God. That's why we shouldn't be doing fornication for that exact reason. We shouldn't be doing fornication because it defiles our temple and is for the Spirit of God. And it don't seem like it. It seemed like a small thing, but it's really a big thing. And it's a cut. It's a cut for most of us. Because this is something that when you come into the knowledge of the truth, and even when you're in the truth, these are things that you still are caught up on. And when you caught up on these things, this is where you have to go back to the beginning. We always have to go back to the beginning and understand the cause of it. Because remember, it said adultery, that Wisdom of Solomon 14, where it was naming a list of things that idolatry caused. What was on there? Adultery. Adultery is a form of fornication. It's a form of fornication. Even when King David, he committed adultery. And that was because of idolatry. Why? Because he was thinking of himself. It was about himself. Read verse 20.
Verse 20. For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's.
So it said the reason why fornication is a big thing, and they said, and the church elders said, start with idolatry and fornication, because we're supposed to glorify God in our body and in our spirit. Like we have church people say, it's spiritual, it's spiritual, it's spiritual. But read that again, verse 20.
Verse 20. For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body.
It say glorify God in your body. Go ahead.
And in your spirit.
And in your spirit. It's both. Your body and your spirit. Go ahead.
And your spirit, which are God's.
Which are God's. The body and the spirit is of the Lord's. Go to Leviticus 18. Let's look at the fornication laws. Let's look at the fornication laws in Leviticus 18. Start at 3.
Leviticus chapter 18, verse 3. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, ye shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances.
So it said that what we about to read is something we learned in Egypt. These fornication laws that we're about to read is what we learned in Egypt. Jump to verse 6.
Verse 6. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness.
Now, this is talking about incest. Incest is considered fornication. It says you cannot approach none of your kin to uncover their nakedness. This is going into fornication. Go to verse 7.
Verse 7. The nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness.
Right.
The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness.
So where did we learn this from? We learned this in Egypt. We learned this in Egypt. Go ahead.
Verse 9. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover.
Say, thou shalt not uncover. Jump to verse 24.
In verse 24. Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things.
It say we are not supposed to defile ourselves in any of these things. When you read on down, these are all incest fornication. Your brother-in-law, sister-in-law, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister, brother, father, like it goes down the line of people who you're not supposed to uncover the nakedness of. And if you do, you're defiling yourself. Read that again, verse 24.
Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you.
You say that the Gentiles, this is what they're in. The Gentiles, this is what they in. Hold this spot. Go to Hebrews chapter 12. Read verse 16.
Hebrews 12 and verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person, as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright.
It said, read that again, my bad.
Hebrews 12 and 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person, as Esau.
It said, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau. Esau is the biggest fornicator or profane person. Go ahead.
Who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright.
So this is one of the nations that we learned. We learned it in Egypt, Babylon, the Greeks, the Romans, and now the new Babylon. They're the biggest fornicators. Go back to Leviticus 18. Leviticus 18, read verse 30.
Leviticus chapter 8 and verse 30. Therefore shall ye keep mine ordinance, that ye commit not any one of these abominable customs, which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am the Lord your God.
We're not supposed to defile ourselves in that. Go to 1 Corinthians. No, go to Ephesians 5. We're going to start at 1.
Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 1. Be ye therefore followers of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us as an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling savor.
Go ahead.
But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints.
You see that? It's like uncleanness, covetousness, and fornication. That covers all those commandments in Acts chapter 15. Uncleanness, covetousness, because covetousness is idolatry. Covetousness and fornication. It said, let that not be once named among us. Verse 4.
Verse 4. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks.
All right.
For this ye know, that no whoremonger, no unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God.
Go to Sirach 18. Ezekiel 18. We're going to read verse 30.
Sirach chapter 18, verse 30. Go not after thy lust.
Say what?
Go not after thy lust.
So Sirach say, don't go after our lust. We're not supposed to go after our lust. Go ahead.
Go not after thy lust, but refrain thyself from thine appetite.
It says we supposed to refrain ourselves from our appetites. And I know that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're not married. It's a struggle. But one reason it's a struggle is because we usually some form of idolatry. That's what makes it a struggle. Remember, idolatry is the biggest stumbling block. It's the biggest stumbling block. Read 31.
Verse 31. If thou givest thy soul the desires that please her, she will make thee a laughing stock. She will make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies that malign thee.
It said if we give our soul the desires of our appetites, it makes us a laughing stock. It makes us a laughing stock. if we give ourselves over to our appetites, if we give ourselves over to that covetousness, remember that covetousness is idolatry. They all go. You see how fornication gonna go in hand with that idolatry because it goes into that covetousness. Go to 1 Corinthians 10. 1 Corinthians 10, we're going to read verse 6.
1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 6. Now these things were our example, with the intent we should not lust after evil things.
So that's what that covetousness means, lusting after evil things. That's what that means when we lust after evil things. Go ahead.
As they also lust.
That's talking about as our forefathers and foremothers in the wilderness. We can't lust after evil things. Go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. We're going to hit this pretty fast. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, start at 1.
1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 1. Furthermore, then we beseech you, brethren, and exhort you by the Lord Jesus, that as ye have received of us, how ye ought to walk and to please God, so ye would abound more and more. For ye know what commandments we gave you by the Lord Jesus.
Now watch this, verse 3.
For this is the will of God.
Now it's going to tell us what the will of God is clear. Go ahead.
For this is the will of God, even your sanctification.
So this is for our sanctification, means cleansing. Go ahead.
That ye should abstain from fornication.
You see that? Abstaining from fornication is for our sanctification. It's for our cleansing process. This is why the church leaders told them to focus on this. Because this is our cleansing process. Verse 4.
That every one of you should know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and honor.
And so we should know how to possess our vessels in sanctification and honor. That's a learned trait. A learned trait. Because the body, the lust is just go, your flesh automatically goes to that. So to sanctify, to abstain from it, that's a learned trait. It's a learned trait. Verse 5.
Not in the lust of concubines.
That's not how we possess our vessel. Go ahead.
Even as the Gentiles, which know not God.
But that's how the Gentiles do. But they don't know God. So when you come to know God, one of the things is knowing how to possess your vessel. Because it said that you're serving God with your body and with your spirit. And and I'm gonna tell you this, it's gonna be the hardest things that we have to do. Those little 4 commandments that they gave us a starting point. That's part of most of the hardest things you're gonna have to do. Because you got to refrain from idolatry. That's what? Dealing with your family members that's still doing the pagan days. Dealing with your stubbornness. Dealing with your desires, your evil desires. You really focus in on yourself. Anybody that comes to the truth, these commandments make you focus in on yourself.
And if you notice, that's why the scripture starts with idolatry. Because idolatry, that's like you said, you got to kill your self desires first. And one thing about idolatry is the biggest thing people don't understand about idolatry is you are your biggest stumbling block. Your self desire, things that you want. So you have to basically get over pleasing yourself first. I just want to hit that, say that.
Right. You see.
I just want to hit that.
Okay. Where we at? Let's talk about the blood. Go back to Acts 15. Acts 15, read verse 20.
Acts chapter 15 and verse 20. But that we write unto you, them, that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood.
So now we're going to look at the last two commandments, the things strangled and from blood. What is that? Go to Leviticus 17. The things strangled and from blood. Leviticus 17, we're going to start at 13.
Leviticus chapter 17 and verse 13. And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of strangers that sojourn among you, which hunted and catcheth any beast,
So I said, if you hunt or catch any beast, go ahead,
or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust.
So when you hunt or catch anything, you have to pour the blood out in the dust. You cannot eat the food with blood. That rare steak that Esau loved, where it comes with the blood on the plate, we're not supposed to do that. We are not supposed to do that. Verse 14, let's see why.
For it is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, ye shall eat of the blood of no manner of flesh. For the life of all flesh is the blood thereof.
Because the life is in the blood. It say the life of all flesh. That's the animals too. The life of all flesh is in the blood. That's important. Go ahead.
Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off. And every soul that eateth that which died of itself, or that which was torn with beasts, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger, he shall both wash his clothes and bathe himself in water.
So we can't eat anything that died of itself. Because if you eat something that's been dead, that's already dead, that you didn't get a chance to kill it, slit the throat and let the blood pour on the ground, the blood is still there. The blood do not go out when something is already dead. It do not go out when it's already dead. Go to Exodus 22. Exodus 22 and 31.
Exodus chapter 22 and verse 31. And ye shall be holy, and ye shall be holy men unto me. Any flesh that is torn of beasts in the field, ye shall cast it to the dogs.
It say, neither shall ye eat any flesh that is torn of beasts. You shall cast it to the dogs. Because anything that's been dead, the blood cannot flow. Especially, it depends on how long it's been dead. Depending on how long something been dead, it won't bleed. So you cannot pour out the blood on the ground. So that's why he say, do not eat anything that died of itself. Go to 14. First Samuel 14 and 32.
First Samuel chapter 14 and verse 32. Then they told Saul, saying, behold, people sin against the Lord.
It say, read that again.
Then they told Saul, saying, behold, the people sin against the Lord.
It say the people sinned against the Lord. Let's look at how. Go ahead.
And that they eat with the blood.
It say they ate with the blood. That's a sin with the Lord. Verse 33.
And he said, Ye have transgressed. Roll a great stone unto me this day. And Saul said, Disperse yourselves amongst the people. I'm up.
Read 33.
Verse 33. Then they told Saul, saying, Behold, the people sin against the Lord.
My bad. Just read 32. Did you read 32?
And the people flew upon the spoil, and took sheep, and oxen, and calves, and slew them on the ground.
So they killed them on the ground. How did the Most High say we were supposed to kill them? We were supposed to kill them and pour the blood out on the ground in the dust and cover the blood up with the dust. But they slew them just laying on the ground. The blood couldn't drain with it just laying on the ground. Go ahead.
And them with the blood.
And they did eat them with the blood because they didn't let the blood drain out properly. Verse 33.
Then they told Saul, saying, Behold, the people sin against the Lord, in that they eat with the blood.
They ate with the blood. They didn't cook it all the way. When you read up a few scriptures, they was hungry because they had fasted. So when they found the food, when they was able to eat, guess what they did? They didn't cook the food properly. They didn't kill it properly, and they didn't cook it properly. That's a sin. Verse 33 again.
Then they told Saul, saying, Behold, the people sin against the Lord, and there they eat with the blood. And he said, Ye have transgressed. Roll a great stone unto me this day.
So they had transgressed. Verse 30.
And Saul said, Disperse yourselves amongst the people, and say unto them, Bring me hither every man his ox, and every man his sheep, and slay them here, and eat, and sin not against the Lord in eating with the blood. And all the people brought every man his ox with him that night, and slew them there.
And slew them there. So they, at that time, that's when they ate not with the blood. Saul had to have them do it properly. He had to have them do it properly. So he said we can't eat the blood and things strangled. Things strangled means things suffocated or died of itself. We have to let the blood pour out. So these are the 4 commandments that he gave us. Why did he give us these commandments? Go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel 20. 7.
Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 7.
So what we're going to look at is why is these so important? Remember, it said the sanctification. I abstain from fornication because this is your sanctification, and don't defile yourself. This is the reason. Ezekiel 27.
Then said I unto them, Cast ye away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt.
So it says, don't defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt. When we in idolatry, we're defiling ourselves. When we read that in Leviticus, what was that? 18. It say, don't defile yourselves with any of these customs. So the thing of the matter, when we come into the truth, we are defiled. So our sanctification starts with undefiling ourselves. What is the biggest things we have to undefile ourselves from? Idolatry, fornication, and the items eaten with the blood. That's the biggest thing we have to defile ourselves. That's at that time, that's what the Gentiles were big in. Even the Hamites, they eat blood soup, which is weird. They literally have blood soup. So the Gentiles this was a big thing. I know y'all probably don't know about the blood. Well, we ain't got to worry about that, but that's a big thing. Eating blood is a big thing. That's how all these vampire movies and all this stuff got big, because they know that's where the life is at. Read that again.
Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 7. Then said I unto them, cast ye away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am the Lord your God.
Jump to verse 17.
Verse 17. Nevertheless, mine eye spared them from destroying them, neither did I make an end of them in the wilderness. But I said unto their children in the wilderness, walk ye not in the statutes of your fathers, neither observe their judgments, nor defile yourselves with their idols.
It's like, nor defile yourselves with the idols. Go back to Leviticus 18 and read verse 30.
Leviticus chapter 18.
Oh, yeah, 30.
Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 30. Therefore shall ye keep mine ordinance, that ye commit not any one of these abominable customs, which were committed before you, that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am the Lord your God.
You see that? So these commandments are about undefiling ourselves. Why is it so important that we undefile ourselves? Because it said the temple of God is the temple. Our body is where the Spirit of God has to come into. When you come into serving the Lord, His Spirit has to enter you. But for His Spirit to enter you, you have to start with this cleansing process. This cleansing process, it's important that you start with idolatry and fornication. Because I guarantee when we have new members come in, you know what's going to be their trouble? Idolatry and fornication. That's going to be the two main things, two biggest things that they're caught in. So guess what that do? That forces them to look at themselves instantly. And then eventually they learn about the dress code, learn about the Sabbath. They're going to be doing that as well. But instantly, they're going to have to look at their life. If two adults come in, let's say two adults come in, they not married. They got kids. They have to cleanse themselves from fornication. Meaning what? They have to get married. Go to 1 Corinthians. Y'all know y'all want to be together. They know they want to be together, but they can't. They got to get out. He said, focus on these commandments. Flee idolatry, flee fornication. What is it? 2 Corinthians 7 and 2.
1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 2. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband.
That's how you avoid it. It can't just keep going down. It can't keep going down the same way. If y'all know y'all want to be together, and this how it's gonna be when new people come into the truth. They gonna come in like that. They came in like that. And if they're not ready for that step, guess what? Y'all have to stop, lay it down until y'all ready. That's how it goes. So Those 4 commandments, just those 2 though, those main 2, we focus on idolatry and fornication. Those 2 go apply to everybody that comes in, to for them to look at their own life. Because everybody go come in not keeping the Sabbath. Everybody go come in not having fringes. Everybody go come in. But when you tell people to get out of idolatry and get out of fornication, that's personal. Now you're getting personal with people. Now you're getting into their life. It's more specific. Because that's where all people in a Gentile mind state, that's where they're going to be at when they come in new. And people that sin, that's where we might err to that side. We might struggle with it. And it's a cut. It's a cut because then, I know I had to look at myself like, what's up? Back to the drawing boards. So it's a nice foundation for people that's new and for the people that's in but stuck. It's a nice reboot as well to go back to those commandments. So we go in the third. That little party got my mind.
We ain't gotta go nowhere, but just to put on a little bit more too. That chapter we was just in, 1 Corinthians 7. That whole chapter, when like if y'all want to get more understanding, in regards to fornication, this entire chapter give you some good ins and outs of it. Y'all can't go wrong with trying to learn about fornication in 1 Corinthians 7. This not the only place to get it, but 1 Corinthians 7 is a good foundation ground to learn about fornication, to know what it is, to know if you attached to it, if you find yourself in it, and how to repent from it, like all that. Like it's in 1 Corinthians 7, but it's all around the Bible too. But it's these one of them topics to where you can dig in. And it's not just the first thing you see, like fornication can go a long ways, physically and spiritually, So if y'all ever not clear about what fornication is, this chapter we just last hit, 1 Corinthians 7, always lean on it. There's other spots too, but always lean on this chapter if y'all uncertain.
Yeah, because we was gonna get a couple of examples, but that's what King David fell on. Fornication, adultery. He fell on that, and it was because of idolatry. He put himself before the Most High. He put his needs before the Most High needs, and he had to pay for that. There was a lot of great men. I know the one great example was Joseph, when a woman was his master's wife was throwing herself at him, and he was able to flee fornication. He fled it.
Our forefather Judah, he fell into fornication.
He fell.
He was out looking for what they say in solitary places,
right?
Looking for hookers. End up getting caught up.
Sounds strange for a piece of change.
Yeah. Actually, ended up was his daughter-in-law.
Right.
Ended up sleeping with his
future daughter-in-law. She was promised. She was betrothed.
Yeah.
To his son.
Yep. So he ended up getting caught up real quick. Instant. Right. Instant.
Yeah.
Many laws.
I can't go.
So yeah, many what is it called? There's many examples of fornications in the scriptures.
Yeah. We good. Because I can't find.
right here. 1 Corinthians 7. Go down to verse 18.
1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 18.
Just so we can leave it on there, because this the last part we hit on.
Is any man called
No.
being, you said 1 Corinthians 7 and 18.
Yeah, 18.
1 Corinthians 7 and 18.
I'm sorry. I'm tripping. I'm sorry. 6 and 18. I'm sorry.
1 Corinthians 6 and 18.
Actually, start at 17.
Verse 17. But he that is joined unto the Lord is one spirit.
Right. So when we join to the Lord, that's what we got to be mindful of. We always got to be in tune with only one spirit. When we find ourselves in tune with more than one spirit, that's a good chance that you're going off. We supposed to be in with one spirit. Go ahead.
Flee fornication.
They say do what?
Flee fornication.
Flee fornication. Because it's easy to go into it. That's why this is how this verse started. Say flee fornication, because it's easy to go into it. Go ahead.
Every sin that a man doeth is without the body.
Right. So every time when you making thoughts that ain't really concerning your body, it's a good chance you in fornication. When you start doing things that defile you or others, that's fornication. Any form of defilement is fornication. Go ahead.
But he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body.
And that's what we got to be mindful of. This is the main reason why we got to flee fornication, because whenever you involved with it, you defile your own self. It's yourself you killing. You killing the person involved also, but you more so killing yourself. So the safety message is flee fornication. Flee fornication so you can save yourself and also the others, whoever you got in your mind.
All praise. All praise. And these are good starting points. If you ever want to, you know how we talk to our family members, talk to them and try to, pull them to the truth. A lot of people got the knowledge of we are Israel. But guess what they won't do when you tell them you don't do Christmas, you don't do these feast days anymore? They will not research. They will not research. You can literally type it up for them, buy them books to show that it's pagan. They will not research, but we have to keep driving that home for them. If we keep driving that home, one time I told a guy at work about Christmas. He said, "Oh, you don't?" I told him I don't do Christmas. He said, "Oh, you don't do Christmas?" I say, "Nah, that's pagan for me." And he shook his head because that was a cut, because everybody knows it's pagan. He couldn't say nothing. When you put it in that form of it's pagan, they can't fight. So we have to drill that in our loved one's mind. Drill that these feast days are pagan, because that idolatry is a stumbling block that's keeping them from the commandments. That's what we read, the effects of idolatry in part 1. It's the biggest stumbling block that our people have. So even for the future, we're going to start doing a lot of class going over the history of these pagan days and anything else that's pagan that we don't know about. That's going to be a nice focus point, because this is the information that we got to get people out there. I was talking to a sister about Thanksgiving, and she had no idea that every Thanksgiving, the Native American Indians protested every year, trying to get Thanksgiving canceled. And I told her, she was like, why are they trying to cancel it? Because it's about the murder that they did to them. Their forefathers was actually murdered at that time. They actually call Thanksgiving the day of mourning. And this is a lot of information that people don't know. How can you say I love everybody, but you celebrating the murder of the people you say you love.
No, yeah, that's 100%. Because I was just hitting on. I was just talking to a couple people earlier this week on that topic. In regards, because they were like, I started giving them the perspective of the holy days rather than holidays, and they questioned. They were like, well, what about Thanksgiving? You got to look at it in this perspective. Be mindful. The Indians, the Native Americans, how we commonly know them as, they fit the curses of Israel. So at the end of the day, that's how we got to put it. The Native Indians, they Israel. So when it comes down to why, when people ask you why don't you celebrate Thanksgiving, give people this perspective. Ask them like, look, say like use yourself sometimes, because that's I guess sometimes you got to get real clear to give people perspective sometimes. This is the example I give people about why I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. If y'all, like, say for example, if my loved ones knew I was here, for whatever and this and that, and let's say they know clearly some other nation of people killed me. Let's say they killed me in the most worst way, all the things that's clearly evident, like they was tripping. They straight murdered this dude. Would you go kick it with them every single day or every single year on the same day that they killed me? If y'all look at me as your brother or your uncle or anything along them lines that's family related, if these Gentiles went off and killed me, why would you go and celebrate with them every single year of the day that they killed me? It don't make no sense. It's hatred. Same way if it was, for example, if these same people went off and killed your father or your mother, why would you go kick it with them every single year off the day that they killed your people? That's hatred. And for people who don't see it in that way, you're confused. You can't celebrate a day that was defined as hate and try to switch it into like a day of love. A hatred day was a hatred day. You can't make love out of a hatred day. And when you do, that's where you going off. That's where you confused. It's a whole lot of self-hatred involved right there. It's because it's no way possible. If I know somebody straight killed any of y'all in here, it's no way in hell every single year on the day y'all got killed, I'm finna go kick it with the niggas that killed y'all. That's hatred in its biggest form. That's just that holiday, Thanksgiving. The Native Indians, them our people. So we ain't supposed to celebrate that day. They killed our people. We shouldn't be glorifying that. And same with all these other days, they pagan. We ain't supposed to glorifying all that. It's the slaughter of our people. There's no need to be trying to give acknowledgement to that or trying to use the excuse of us for the kids. BS, because we ain't finna teach no kids to celebrate the people that killed your daddy or the ones that killed your mama or the ones that killed your grandparents. That's some stupid, simple teaching if you want the kids to keep learning the false tradition. They killed your people and you want your kids to celebrate that. Think about how stupid that sounds. We don't do them pagan days. It's not rational. It's not love. It's all stem from hatred.
All praises. All praises. Let's go ahead. Let's get Matthew 26.
It's Matthew chapter 26, starting at verse 6. Now when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and put it on his head as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, to what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman have done be told for memorial of her.
So our praises for that memorial, that remembrance of Mary Magdalene. She prepped Christ for his burial, and he loved her for that. With that, I say happy feast of dedication, day one, and shalom.